distinguished guests, dear professors and scholars. It is a great honor for me today to give a speech at such an important session of the Beijing Forum, proudly named after the great city of Beijing and celebrating its 20th anniversary. Considering that the important speakers before me were all international guests and Beijing Forum is an international forum, I will also deliver my speech in English to show my respect. Even if I'm a specialist in French, as the host has just introduced, and that my talk today will be concentrated on Chinese. 我把我的中文的版本交给翻译啊，这是也是我自己写的，不是翻译的，所以你们也可以听这个中文的这个版本。Yes, it's the 20th anniversary of the Beijing Forum. If we go back to its origins, we are almost back to the beginning of this century. The most profound memory left for us during that period was SARS. It was an unforgettable period, filled with sorrow, just like the COVID-19 period that had just finished. At the same time, that era was also an extremely rich and productive period for intellectuals and scholars. For example, because of SARS, I was confined to my home and buried in translation work. I translate at least 3 books that year and continue with the same frequency. This has resulted in my having a certain reputation in the translation industry. It is precisely this reputation that one day led me to receive an unexpected guest, a Marquis, le Marquis François d'Aman, who came to me hoping that I could translate a rare manuscript he had discovered, the Olympic Manifesto, into Chinese and spread it to the world. This is a 14-page manuscript, originated and left by the young Baron de Coubertin, which reappeared after 100 years due to a relentless search by the Marquis. So maybe PPT, someone can help me. So, at the time it was written, Coubertin served as the Secretary General of the French Athletic Union and was required to produce an annual report. At the end of the manuscript, he seems to have had a sudden apocalypse, crossing out a mediocre conclusion, and instead proposing to revive the Olympic Games. This is a manuscript. After reading this manuscript, Mr. Samuel Ranch, then president of IOC, named it the Olympic Manifesto, because it was the first time in modern history that the concept of the Olympics had been proposed. 2 years later, the first International Olympic Committee, IOC, was established after Coubertin's proposal, and we know the story after that. I'm deeply honored to have gained Marquis d'Aman's trust and to serve as the chief translator of such an invaluable manuscript. Nonetheless, another expectation he set forth sparked a long period of reflection on my part, spanning over a decade. Today, I wish to share some of the modest insights that have emerged from my sporadic reflections. Marquis d'Aman hopes to spread this manuscript to the world through the translation work my team and I undertook. While the 2008 Beijing Olympics offered an excellent opportunity to direct people's attention to the rare text, Marquis d'Aman's true intention is for the text to be globally recognized through our translation work, the ultimate Chinese version. That is to say, he believes that Chinese is a real global language, or at least it is potentially very international. Nowadays, the Olympic Manifesto has gained some popularity in China, and it even enjoys some rare treatment. It is engraved on bronze in 3 languages, English, French, and Chinese, and it stands inside the Beijing Olympic Forest Park, and even has a square named after it called the Olympic Manifesto Plaza. This is the plaza. Many people frequent the area daily, whether it's the elderly, lovers, or children. It has indeed been well disseminated to some extent. But how about Marcus Demet entrusting it with spreading it to the world? The simultaneous display of English, French, and Chinese language on bronze engraving has proven that if it was spread worldwide, it must not have been through its Chinese version, but through other languages, namely French or English. I found that as if water had made a turn, it remained without flowing to a wider place. Instead, it continued to flow with its original strength and spread in its own and Western language, leveraging the impact of the Beijing Olympic Games. Indeed, Chinese itself constitutes an immense flow, especially in modern times. Just like an ocean that receives the discharge of hundreds of rivers, it has embraced different civilizations from all over the world like a vast sea, thanks to numerous Chinese translators proficient in foreign language. Due to the many significant foreign language works in science, humanities, social sciences, literature, art, and other fields introduced by these translators, our intellectuals, university professors, and researchers have synthesized and reflect on these foundations, producing countless excellent research results. However, when people are excited about these achievements and hope to spread them to the world, they realize it is still necessary to translate into English, French, Japanese, German, Spanish, etc. Otherwise, they will be like a line from a beautifully written Tang poem, like a young lady who stays in her boudoir all day. Outsiders don't even know her existence. It may be difficult for our foreign guests, even for our own professors and scholars, to perceive the depth and the breadth of Chinese translation. Therefore, please allow me to briefly introduce a few that I'm familiar with. This year, the Full-Length Translation and Publishing Award, on which I served as chairman from the very beginning, will celebrate its 15th anniversary. It's a bit younger than the Beijing Forum, but as a translation award today, it reaches a milestone not easily acquired. The reason it can succeed depends on a basic condition. China is the last country in purchasing French copyrighted works. That is to say, there are so many countries in the world, but China is a country with the most translations of French books. This might be a bit challenging to believe, but in reality, despite the time lag in translation and publication, Chinese readers have access to the vast majority of renowned contemporary French authors' works. This includes literary works, humanity, writing, social science studies, art critics, and more. Additionally, they have access to a substantial collection of classical works. French modern and contemporary works have almost reached synchronization with China today. French books are often translated and published in Chinese just 1 or 2 years later. This has given our awards a continuous stream of participating works. So through just a few pictures, I can make aerial view that some of the most important writers and scholars in China are aware of the Full-Length Translation Award and have participated in it to some extent. Moreover, the translator group is becoming younger and younger every day. This could be an opportunity for our foreign guests here to understand how open China is with a high degree of inclusiveness and admissibility. Yet, when we turn our gaze towards the world, we find that Chinese works translated into foreign language are far from being as rich, or rather, there is still a lack of channels for works waiting to be translated into foreign language. In fact, We are the only country where, when our literature, ideas, and research need to be spread, our primary reliance is still on our own translators. Chinese translators translate their domestic works into various foreign languages and export them to the outside world through numerous channels funded by the state. On the other hand, I've never encountered a foreign translator who translates their country's works into Chinese and sends them to us. If I want to meet someone like this, I must magically turn back time to the days of Matteo Ricci or Ferdinand Verbiest. We recently celebrated the 400th anniversary of Ferdinand Verbiest's birth. Thus, I have to reflect on one question. In which position exactly is the Chinese language? What kind of position is it? Like a sea of countless rivers, the Chinese language finds itself not a sea, but still a kind of inland sea. If it wants to be connected to the world, it still needs a flow of the river it accepts. This is a discovery of a paradoxical nature. It will generate two terrifying hypotheses. The first is that the Chinese language may have to become a self-sufficient and independent system, daunting and stagnant due to its complexity and difficulty in understanding. It is official lingua franca of a populous country and is spoken by enough people, yet it is still regional in nature. Another inevitable confusion is whether Chinese will truly become a kind of confinement, a complex language that wastes too much time to learn, a modern and practical burden which affects its entry into the world's symphony. In fact, this is also a specter that has been hovering over Chinese since China opened its doors over a century ago. The Chinese language may need to accept a revolution and Latinization. Otherwise, China will not be able to keep up with modern ideas and changing times. Recently, a professor at Yale University, Qiang wrote a fascinating book titled The Kingdom of Chinese Characters that details the experiences of Chinese language after entering modern times. In fact, what interests me more is the subtitle of this book, which reads thus: The Language Revolution That Made China Modern. It makes the order of things obvious. It is not the modernization of China that led to the language revolution, but the language revolution that caused and brought about the modernization of China. Simply put, among the earliest Chinese literati with an open spirit, many people loudly called for the need to Latinize Chinese. Even the great modern Chinese writer Lu Xun proposed in 1936, if Chinese characters are immortal, China will perish. In 1980, Chen Mingyuan excitedly shouted, "Long live the Chinese characters," because computers can finally use Chinese characters. Mr. Wang Xuan, a former professor at Beijing University and great scientist, along with others, achieved breakthrough results, making Chinese character a language that computers can use without difficulty. So, the history of the revolution of Chinese characters over the past 100 years has powerfully demonstrated to us that whenever we feel that these thousands of years of Chinese characters will bind us, a revolutionary measure or technology can help us overcome difficulties unscathed and propel us onto the train of modern development without any difficulty. So far, no one has any doubt about the existence, the meaning of being, raison d'être, of Chinese characters anymore. By the way, I cannot resist sharing my joy as a user of this wonderful language by showing you how a beautiful poem by French poet Charles Baudelaire, translated to Chinese and presented with Chinese characters, can become even more sublime. I will even attempt to showcase it with my modest calligraphy. This is a Chinese version of Baudelaire's poem. The absence of doubt about its meaning of being does not mean its barriers will disappear. Until today, sinologists from many countries still exist in single digits. We need more, Professor Elliott. Besides, we still feel the awe-inspiring feeling of this language to the point where, as Mr. Ji Xianling, a great scholar and former professor of Beijing University, once said, after Lu Xui's brilliance, we still need to promote deliveries, that is, to translate our works into foreign language through ourselves. Milan Kundera, my mentor, whose demise this past summer saddened me, as a highly insightful analysis of Kafka. One of them is his firm belief that if Kafka did not write in German, but in Czech, he would likely not have had his influence or even be completely unknown. That's why Kundera gave up writing in his native Czech and switched to French because French, as a more international language, can reach more readers and have more significant influence. Compared to English, the global lingua franca, French emphasizes establishing its own cultural region, also known as Francophonie, which covers various countries with French as the official or unofficial language. Chinese also have a vast Chinese language circle, especially with a large number of people, but there's no phenomenon of non-Chinese using Chinese as their official or unofficial language in any part of the world. There are only Chinese and overseas Chinese, the diaspora. As long as no non-Chinese people are using Chinese in bilingual or multilingual forms, relying solely on the global presence of Chinese people to achieve the spread of the Chinese language, China will be feared, and Chinese culture will be seen as a form of cultural invasion rather than integration in the world. Picasso likes to say to the people who claim not to understand his paintings, my paintings are like Chinese, they can be learned. Yes, Chinese is learnable, just as China can be understood, and Picasso's paintings can be understood. My experience as dean of Yenching Academy constantly reminds me that as long as students are provided with good conditions and have strong intentions, the barriers to mastering the Chinese language can be destroyed. Non-Chinese using Chinese knowledge. Dear guests, professors and scholars, please forgive me for emphasizing such a naive question. Can Chinese become a more international language? I think this is not a simple language issue. This is a more important issue for the future, because only when Chinese is considered and used as a real international language can China be accepted as an important and integrated country in the world. The fear of China and the Chinese people will disappear, and people around the world will realize that the Chinese people are a highly open nation and a nation with so much to share with the world. That's why, at the end of such an important forum, I want to answer the question I raised myself. Chinese will become a more international language, but this requires our efforts. Educators, intellectuals, creators, artists, etc. We need to make foreign friends who desire to directly experience the true taste of Chinese, just as they can experience the authentic taste of Chinese cuisine, rather than eating Chinese food that people have chewed. Or at least more and more sinologists from other countries will translate Chinese books into their language, because a good translation is a Chinese dish made by a good cook, whether the cook is from the United States, Germany, France, or any other country. He will not provide the dishes he has chosen, but the dish he has learned to prepare. Only then will China truly be loved by people with its worthy scale and appropriate appearance, especially since it does not cause unnecessary fear or unwarranted hostilities. One thing is certain: when you enter someone's house on your own accord, the difference is huge compared to when the resident of the house invites you. Thank you all. I sincerely wish the Beijing Forum a long and lasting success. I also hope that if I have the opportunity to speak again next time, I can talk directly using Chinese and do not need translation aid. Thank you.